Okay, man, these, among other IMs on my table, have been sitting on my table for months, and to my handler, who is the one who provides me with these things, which, I'm, if you're watching this, my bad, I'm doing the best I can. Got a day job, you know what I mean? But I'm glad you understand. I hope. But anyway, these are Kinera's Celest Gumiho IEMs. Not only do they make those little mics I've reviewed before, they also make their own set of IEMs. That being said, let's talk about it. Alright, before we get started, I don't like to talk about this very much because it takes too much time in the video, makes the video longer, but these things were sent out to me for review, if you didn't hear from earlier, but even though they were sent out to me for review, I won't be like, changing the way I say things and like adjusting my review. Everything you're gonna hear here is my personal opinion. Also, this is gonna be more of a gaming-oriented review versus an audiophile review. And then, never mind. I go into the audiophile stuff anyway. So with that being said, let's get started. All right, now starting with the box, there's a lot of attention to detail, including on the little tab thing on top, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, inside this box, you're gonna get the IEMs themselves, a nice little carrying pouch, which if we look closer is also pretty fancy. And on top, there's these little metal tab things, and that's because you can push these and it'll open up. Where inside we'll find a cable as well as a brush to keep your IEMs clean. You also get two bags with different size ear tips with different sizes for the holes of the ear tips, which would affect the sound just a little bit, with the black ones giving you a tighter sound and a little bit more bass, and the white ones giving you a little bit more of an open sound and a little less bass. Granted, the differences will be very small, and it really depends on like the shape and size of your ear, so your mileage will vary. And that's basically all you get, aside from like some paperwork. And the metal Fox badge on the front, that's actually removable, and I think it is a bookmark, so that's kind of cool. Alright, now starting with the cable, we get our nice fancy braided cable, which is getting kind of common these days with IEMs, but that's always nice to see, honestly. Anyway, it's got a nice metal 3.5mm jack, and at the split, it is a metal barrel splitter, and you also do get a chin slider. And as usual, at the end are ear hooks that terminate into two pin connectors. Now then, if we take a look at the IEMs, just like the name implies, there are Gumiho on the faceplates, which are nine-tailed foxes in Korean. And this is all on what I believe is an all-metal body, according to the feel from what I'm getting in my hands. And this metal build also extends into the nozzles, which of course do have metal grills, which are kind of fancy looking, so there's some attention to detail there, which I do think is kind of nice. Alright, now here's how they look like on the head, and they're like medium-size-ish kind of size IEMs, and they fit pretty okay. They're very light and comfortable in the ears, though your mileage will vary depending on the size and shape of your ear. For me, there's this little area where it kind of presses on my ear, and I do start feeling it after like about an hour of use, and I can imagine those with smaller ears will probably feel it a little sooner than I will. Granted, of course, this will depend on the shape of your ear, because you could actually have a small ear with a larger opening than I would in that area, so, you never know. Everyone's ear is just a little bit different in shape no matter what the size, so then that's why your mileage will kind of vary when it comes to IEMs. And through IEMs, you'll start to get a little bit more familiar with the shape of your own ears. Alright, now let's talk about the sound of the Celest Gumiho. So these things are using planar magnetic drivers along with one single balanced armature driver. And this will affect its sound in a way that audiophiles will care about, but most of you probably won't care about, so I'm not going to get into those details, but just know that this is why it sounds the way it is, and so let's just get into that. Alright, now then, so like at the low end, at the very lowest end, we got a pretty great rumble, good presentation over there that is like fairly present, but not like overpowering. And if we move into like the upper bass, or the mid bass and upper bass, it's just okay. The punch is there, it's not particularly strong, but it is feelable, so it's like just enough, I guess, for an audiophile, but definitely not a bass head. The sound of the bass, I would guess, would be considered very natural. It feels like just right. But because of this, it doesn't like, mess with the mids too much while still maintaining a good presence. That being said, in the mid-range, it has a also pretty good presence. I would say it's kind of like balanced in terms of its like tuning, and it has a very clean and natural sound, once again, much like the bass. But at the same time, I wouldn't say it's very detailed by any means, but I guess that's kind of what gives it that more laid back kind of sound and feel to it. So it's a smooth mid presence that is not recessed by any means. It's very much balanced, so it's a pleasant listen. Now if we go into the highs, there seems to be a trend where they're trying to like make it an easy listening IEM, because the highs themselves don't go too high, just to avoid like any chances of sibilance and harshness. Granted, the range of it isn't like stunted or anything. It still does have a pretty good reach into those higher regions, but it never got like too bright. So these IEMs, I would say, aren't the brightest IEMs in the world in case you're into brighter sounds, but the way it is, I would say, is overall with everything else, it's very smooth, relaxed, and enjoyable. It's a very good, easy listening set. I don't think you're really gonna ever get like sound fatigue from these guys for those really long gaming sessions that go like 2+ hours, in case you're into those long gaming sessions. So I think that's a good thing. Now then, moving on to like soundstage and imaging, which I know a lot of you guys who play games are really into. The soundstage is average for a set of IEMs. I wouldn't say that they're lacking in size, because it's still got a decent amount of size to work with to give you that sense of space. It is definitely more wide than it is deep, and surprisingly, the height of these guys, like on the upper levels, isn't that bad. It's pretty good, I'd say. There was a good sense of it. In terms of imaging and utilizing this stage, I would say it's also just average. It's okay, and you can find things, generally speaking, from pretty easily. It's not like the most pinpoint thing in the world because of the way it uses its sound separation. Because the sound separation on these guys, I would say a lot of sounds do feel kind of close to each other, but are just like close enough where you're able to like separate the sounds okay, but you're gonna have to use a little effort to do that. That being said, if you're gonna be using these for like competitive shooters, I think it just does an okay job due to the aforementioned like imaging. It's just okay for tracking people. I think if it had brighter highs, it would probably be much better for tracking people, but it doesn't have those really sparkly upper sound registers that would help you for that kind of like tracking. But for what it is, I do think they make a really great casual like playing. So if you're playing the games casually, playing shooter games casually, you're not like a super try-hard, you're not like hardcore comp player, then I think you're gonna be fine. But if you are a comp player, then maybe you'll be using something else. But I guess if you're a comp player and you're chilling, then these aren't too bad. Now then, that then brings us to like less competitive games that are more like atmospheric and just open world kind of games that people like these days, that I honestly like. If you're gonna be playing more of those games, then I think it does a much better job than it does in like competitive shooters. The immersion effect I think was pretty good. It just kind of pulls you in, but slowly, so it's not like the most immersive from the get-go. And I do think they're not the most engaging in terms of its sound at first, but you kind of ease into the world and you're just kind of there. The thing about that is because they're not super engaging and intense by any means, once again, they're very easy to wear for those very, very long sessions without having your ears feel tired from listening to all the sounds going on at once. So if you're playing these games like long term, like I said, it's a nice, comfortable listen. Now combine that with the fact that these are very light and comfortable in the ears, no matter like what size ear you have. Once again, I think these would just make a really good pair if you're planning on playing those really long gaming sessions, or maybe you're listening to music for a very long period of time and just keeping them in your ears. They're just very comfortable, just a great relaxed set, I'd say. It's for those really chill gamers who just like to kick it back, even in competitive shooters where you'll just kick it back in intense battle. All that being said, these are $50 planar magnetic driver IEMs. Granted, it also uses one balanced armature driver, which is also nice to have with it along, so it's like a hybrid. And at the $50 range, it's hard to say if it's better or worse than anything in this category, because the $50 category is very competitive, and all the tunings of the sound is like slight different variations of here and there, where what might be good to me is probably not good to you, and what might be good to you might be really good to someone else. Just a lot of IEMs in this range with slightly different tunings that can match perfectly, I guess, to each person's different kind of taste. So if you like the sound that you're hearing that I'm explaining right now, then maybe you should go, try them out, see if you like them yourself, and maybe these will be the pick for you. For me personally, I do like these things a lot, and I think they do really well for their price, and I'd personally get them if not for the fact that my main, IEMs are already like the Moondrop variations, which sound actually kind of similar to the Celest Gumihos, only that these are like on steroids compared to these. So, that explains a lot because these things are expensive. So, that being said, that's pretty much all I have for today. So if you want to buy these guys, I'll leave you a little link in the description, and that's pretty much it. So, if you like them, you want them, down there, just a little link helps me run this channel. So, that being said, guys, see you guys next time.